do what needs to be done.
The process of breaking the season for season 2, the fortunate thing for us was actually we had sown so many seeds from the first season, and a lot of what we were doing was just harvesting what we had planted.
Well, the first thing I heard about season 2 was before we shot season 1, when I first met Brian, and he pitched me or described to me a brief version of how he envisioned the first 4 seasons. So I had in my head kind of an idea of the overall trajectory.
With Brian Fuller, you sort of have to close your eyes and jump. He'll give you a sense of like, hey, yeah, you're gonna be around for a while, but you don't know what that means.
We had set so many things up, and the exciting thing was to see how they were all going to be coming to fruition. We set up Miriam Lass, we set up Abigail Hobbs, we set up a dynamic between Will and Hannibal that was one initially based on trust and became so intimate that it then blew apart after the betrayal.
I actually appreciate the role of being the keeper to the canon of Thomas Harris, and that's actually why I loved having Brian Fuller from the beginning, because he too shares that quest and that responsibility and the honor.
Whenever you're adapting someone's work, particularly something as canonized as Thomas Harris, there is a rabid fan base for the literature. So there was some concern about certain deviations that we were going to be taking.
That's what makes exciting viewing, that we can go in depth, taking a character and twisting it. You know, not doing the obvious, even though they'll appear in books later on. And there's no written rule that we have to stay with that. But I have to say that I do think Thomas is, even though he does know what's going on, he's been very, very honorable in trusting us. It's not just me, but trusting all of us in doing what we feel is quite a brilliant accomplishment.
The fun thing about adapting the Thomas Harris books is that there is such an enthusiastic fan base that we absolutely want to honor, and I see myself as very much a member of that community, being very loyal to the books and very respectful of the books. But also we are telling a different story, because at a certain point in the history, we changed a fundamental thing, which is Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter had no relationship in the literature.
I'm very careful about what I put into my body, which means I end up preparing most meals myself. A little protein scramble to start the day, some eggs, some sausage.
That's delicious, thank you.
There's always a little bit of this, both the enthusiasm of an actor getting ready to do something and then the enthusiasm of a fan who wants to know how the story turns out.
It's always a very fascinating way, I guess, of telling a story when the audience knows what the final point is going to be, and then you have a whole season to get there. So it's very exciting because you know a little bit of what's to come, but you don't know how it's going to happen. So yeah, that's all we knew, basically.
Will, what have you done?
I called Jack Crawford.
No. 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 Stay there.
He's a major character in the franchise, but I didn't know that it was going to be so much taken to heart. And people started saying like, oh my God, I actually like this guy when I'm not supposed to. And I kind of secretly loved that we were about to completely pull the rug out.
It hasn't been easy, and that's why it's fun to set up something as obnoxious as Children of the Peacock, and how he gets something that, you know, he's ripe for getting it.
One of the things that's great about Children getting shot in that episode is that it just tells you have no idea what the rules are in this world.
My first reaction when I read that he was going to be killed, I went, no, You can't kill him. But then, okay, you have a bit of a wink, but yet you want to, kind of implicate that it's, again, Hannibal, again, has masterfully set up somebody else to take the fall.
I'm as in the dark as the other viewers right now about how things may or may not work out. There might be a chance.
I remember in the writer's room when we were talking about this arc for Chilton in the first 7 episodes, we wanted very much to take advantage of Raul Esparza and write a quasi-comedic role in the show that gave us a different bit of energy from everyone else's very serious, brooding demeanor in the tone of the show.
Prosciutto roses, heart tartare, beef roulade. Whatever this is, needless to say, I will not be eating the food.
I think they've used him beautifully, and personally, I hope he survives a gunshot to the head, but of course we won't know. It doesn't look hopeful.
It's important to recognize that you have to be absolutely categorically dead on this show before you can say for sure that you're dead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I was expecting to go season 1, and I had read Red Dragon and knew that Bev Katz is mentioned in that book, so I knew from the get-go that there were going to be some liberties taken.
People have a habit of coming back, so that that applies to some characters and not to others.
But I think that that's what makes it fresh and interesting, that it doesn't follow exactly the way it plays out in the books, and that Brian Fuller did decide to change some of the male characters to female, and you just never know what to expect in every episode or every season. So I think that's part of what makes it so fresh.
Brian's loyalty to the source material is so strong, and his loyalty, I think, to the people that watch the show, that he's not looking to mess with them or just screw with the original material just to get a response. He's very careful about that.
Even though we were breaking some rules, we were breaking the canon of the literature, I felt like we were being true to our show and our interpretation of the Hannibal Lecter legacy. And that's only the beginning, because we're going to be breaking a lot more rules in season 3.
But it gives such a richness to the fans of the books, to Thomas Harris's writings, to the fans of the movies, that we honor the characters and we tell a bit of their tale. We get to do Mason Verger.
The conversations that I had with Michael Pitt were fantastic because he was so energized by the character and how offensive he was, and he has played psychopaths in the past and wanted to make sure that the character he was crafting on Hannibal was distinct from them, and I think he completely pulled it off and was so maniacal and inspired, and I couldn't take my eyes off of him.
They're going to find something wrong with your lady parts, Margot. Or so the record will state. The doctor will advise me that it's best if they take everything.
Obviously, Hannibal, the book, is motivated by Verger's thirst and his greed and his absolute dire need to have and pay for the return of Hannibal Lecter. So we kind of play with that, twist it a bit, and kind of set that up for season 3 as well.
We end season 2 on such a devastating place because we have 4 characters lying in their own blood, dying. And we have Hannibal Lecter dropping the mic and walking off stage in such a capacity that you wonder, like, where does he go from now, until you stay through the credits and you see where he's going from now.
We know that Hannibal is now out and about, and there's more than one entity that is motivated to pursue him and catch him, and that's obviously the FBI, potentially Will, depending on how he recuperates, if he recuperates, and Mason. And Mason's now in the situation that we meet him in the books.
In the writer's room, these novels are so heavily earmarked, and underlined, so that to play with it, to play with how we have seen it before, but twist it a bit. And it just even sets up Hannibal even better because he will eventually become incarcerated. We have to. But how everyone has been complicit in him getting behind bars.
You really don't know if you're going to survive him, do you?
On the show, we are very much Thomas Harris mashup DJs, and we're taking elements from different books, mixing and mashing them as we do our DJ work. And so we are going to be mashing up the novel Hannibal, continuing the Mason Verger story into season 3.
So that entire situation of paying people, you know, whatever that form that would take, I think that could inform season 3 for sure.
As well as Hannibal Rising, and introducing a few characters from that novel that were pertinent to Hannibal's past, but we are completely reinventing Hannibal's origin story. It was set during World War II, and Mads Mikkelsen is a relatively young man. And B, to give the Hannibal of our story a very specific resonance that he may not have had in Hannibal Rising.